other day, I was like, yeah, you know what? You know who I haven't heard from for a while? Jordan Peterson. I wonder what is going on with Jordan Peterson. Jake, what is going on with Jordan Peterson? Do we
Hey,
have
Dad, what's your news?
Well, I'm announcing my tour for next year. It begins January 25th. We're going to do 40 cities in the US, and then we'll hit Canada, Europe, Southeast Asia, including Australia and New Zealand, 150 cities or so in total, like the last tour. Beyond order, 12 more rules for life.
So there are now 24 rules for life. There used to just be 12, but now there are 24.
Why is he dressed like he's in the Dead Poet Society?
Very good question. I don't know.
Why is he like an old-timey college professor from the 1920s? So are these 12 rules, as Peter Reed asked, are these additional rules, or are they
these
they're
are
more tailored?
These seem to be additional rules. So yeah, there were, and the original 12 rules, like you could see his politics poking out a little bit around the edges. I think there's something about not trying to change the world until you've set your house in perfect order. But most of them were just like, sit up straight, look people in the eye, clean your room, things like that. Which are, I mean, it's not terrible. It's pet cats when you see them in the street. I think that was one of the rules. Most of it's not terrible.
How often do you see cats in the street? I mean, they're either roaming about, not really wanting to interact with people, or they're in homes.
Well, apparently Jordan Peterson runs into friendly stray cats, and I mean it must be fairly often because it makes it into the top 12 list of rules for life. So it has to come up every now and again.
Yeah, so I got an email from him, not from him, but from Live Nation the other day, advertising his tour in New York City or in the surrounding areas the other day. And if you were as sadistic as perhaps you claim, Ben, you would crowdfund some money for myself and maybe you or some of the MR crew, some of your friends to go attend and get obliterated drunk. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, that is definitely it's definitely a thought that getting blitzed to watch the Jordan Peterson tour for 2022. But just as a preview of what you can look forward to if we do that, I looked into this, and these ones, at least some of them, seem a lot more overtly political. Here's the very first rule at the beginning of the new 12 rules. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. Now I understand.
What is careless?
I don't know. I guess people are denigrating social institutions, and he feels like they're doing it carelessly. And you might think, okay, I don't really know what that means. I don't know why he's clumping together social institutions and creative achievement. I don't know what counts as careless. So, flip through the book a little bit to find what he says in explanation of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that it has to do with social institutions that involve men. I got a young men.
Well, I visited a restaurant in Toronto, he writes, with my wife, son, and daughter while writing this. As I made my way to my party's table, a young waiter asked if he might say a few words to me. He told me that he'd been watching my videos, listening to my podcast, and reading my book, and he had, in consequence, changed his attitude towards his comparatively lower status, but still useful and necessary job. He had ceased criticizing what he was doing or himself for doing it, decided instead to be grateful and seek out whatever opportunities presented themselves right there before him. He made up his mind to become more diligent and reliable and to see what would happen if he worked as hard as he could. He told me with an uncontrived smile that he had been promoted 3 times in 6 months.
So it seems like Jordan taught him to be a good old cog in the capital machine. Good for him.
Yeah. All I could think when I read that is, man, I don't know why those Starbucks workers in Buffalo bothered with the union. Like, apparently if you just stop complaining and you feel more positive vibes about the place that you work, and you smile more, or you hustle more, then everything's going to work out for you.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe he just like figured, hey, time to smoke some pot before work. That makes things easier. It really does. Like one, the promotion figures seem a little fishy here. I would
Right.
imagine that Jordan's embellishing for a dramatic effect, but that's like the point, right? As you mentioned, these anecdotes on their own, it's like, okay, this is a self-help thing, even though self-help is really just like a commodification of how can you exist in this society that's trying to kill you. But like on the individual level, it's not helpful to criticize people for seeking self-help or looking to different ways to make their
Sure.
existence a bit more
Yeah.
palatable. Like I mean, that's not, you look upward in those instances. But for him, it always seems to come back to like, one, it's targeted just towards white men, young men, and then you have like pair it with the videos on what's wrong with women here. Not so helpful. But two, it's it's not when you take that anecdote and you pair it with don't challenge systems, that means, okay, just be better in this oppressive system. And that is not something that we as leftists are in favor of.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have no issue with self-help. I have met, plenty of people in my life who could stand to have somebody tell them to clean their room and stand up with their, I've been to a bunch of DSA meetings. I've met people who could take that advice, right?
Right,
But
right, exactly.
like, but I guess the reason this story, putting aside the question of whether this is a real person and he's relayed this accurately and all that, but like, I guess the reason that this anecdote skeezes me out is that there's this implication, not just like, oh hey, sure, what's the like, find ways to give this guy advice about what he can do, great, I'm all for that, but like that the sort of basic thing, the basic problem, if you work at a restaurant, you have a job like that and you're unhappy about your job, the basic problem is that you shouldn't be unhappy about it, that you fix that, then everything's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right, right? And so like that's kind of circles back to what I was saying initially as well. This is all about how can you be the most efficient member of our capitalist system that you can be in. And it's again, everybody has to make a living. It's
Sure.
not about the
Yeah.
individual. It's just, why does this kind of talk appeal to someone like Ben Shapiro or other right wingers that we talk about here? Because again, these individual things, when you silo them, as you mentioned, make your bed, clean your room, do your laundry, like shave, or maybe not shave, just shower, like
Yeah.
those kinds of things, I understand. But what are they in service for? And largely what?
Just either shave or decide to grow the beard, but
Hmm.
but don't just like sort of sit
Yeah,
in some weird gray area where
no,
like
no,
you go
no.
days without shaving and whatever, like don't do that.
Targeted stubble is also a way to go, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure, like, just if it's the result of being now I'm becoming Jordan Peterson. Like I'm falling into this trap. But yeah, so I think that's a lot of why he appeals to those people.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, because he's telling them, a story that I mean, I think people like it when there's something that they can do. Nobody likes to feel helpless. So if you say this is under control, there's a reason that people like hearing that, and fair enough, but also like where it gets pretty bad to me is that it's like, okay, but also like legitimately, this guy probably has a lot of very real complaints that he should have about this
Yeah.
restaurant, because most people who've worked in restaurants like know that like those are, even as capitalist workplaces go, not ideal, places to work typically, right? And it seems like it's very legitimate that he should be upset about that. And there are constructive things that you can do about that, that are very different from the Jordan Peterson advice of just get there. I don't know. I remember, Mike, I cannot do the Kermit the Frog impression. I'm not going to try, but
Man.
Michael would always do this thing where he'd do his Jordan Peterson impression, and then he'd say, go through all this stuff about like mystical insights about the twin snakes, and and it's like all this really trippy stuff, and then like the conclusion is like you should like show up to work 15 minutes early. That's ultimately that's ultimately where it's going at the end. And it's like, I don't know, I mean, again, like it's maybe just a simple-minded kind of like predictable leftist point, but it's like, doesn't it seem like another constructive thing you could do would be to maybe like start a union at this restaurant?
Yeah, or, I mean, I think the alternate vision that we're trying to hone in on is one that validates the existence of like bad workplace experiences and agita and tension between bosses and workers, and one that says like, no, that's a legitimate thing, as opposed to, oh, I'm gonna collapse in on myself and make sure that I'm the best person I can be, while kind of denying that experience that I had. And so, I mean, really, I think what's also counterproductive from a personal standpoint for this person, fictional or not, is that it is like not we are, I think, on the left offering a self-actualization vision, as opposed to a put your head in the sand, but while also like pedaling your feet to work the machine.
yeah, no, exactly. And look, I mean, I could see even saying that like oftentimes people on the left like maybe don't get the balance of this stuff right, that that you shouldn't give people the impression that like it's not legitimate to try to like focus on trying to individually make your life better, make some room for yourself in the world. These are all like good and healthy things, and there are cases where you should take responsibility for bad things in your life, etc. But also there are legitimately cases where there are there are many cases where there are bad things going on in your life that are not traceable to you having a good attitude, about them, right? I mean, I'm just kind of imagining, the version of Jordan Peterson, it's like people are like trying to find ways to escape, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, being like, okay, I mean, you could focus on what's good about this workplace, or you could complain about this. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the Patreon-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the Patreon-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.